Well, hello. Welcome back to another exciting edition of Coffee with Stephen. So, the subject of this week's blog has to do with a conversation I had with someone last week. Royce, who many of you know, works at our front desk, also does some of our inside sales, had received a phone call from an individual that was somewhat panicky. Apparently, the Department of Justice, California Department of Justice, had shown up to his house with a full SWAT team. There were helicopters flying overhead. They were demanding to see the rifle that he had tried to register with the DOJ, and then they ultimately confiscated it. So, as you can imagine, number one, I wanted to talk to this guy, but number two, I was a little concerned. As you know, I am very troubled by the registration process for the assault weapons ban as crafted by SB 880. That notwithstanding, this seemed like somewhat of a heavy-handed approach by the Department of Justice. And, being prudent, I wanted to, talk directly to the individual. I contacted him. Now, he had already lawyered up, and the lawyer that he chose to go with is a very, very reputable firm. So I knew that he was in good hands as far as that was concerned. But I was curious to hear the facts of the case and how these things transpired. Well, in his mind, he was extremely indignant. He had purchased an AR-15 lower. He had from within California. He had purchased a parts kit from a traditional retailer. He had built up his rifle using YouTube videos and had attempted to register it. Well, this caused the DOJ to show up at his house in Moss, and it turns out, at least in his mind, that the reason that they were so concerned was that rather than putting on a rad lock or a fixed magazine or a bullet button, he had used the regular magazine release that comes with all of the kits. Well, it turns out that wasn't the reason that they had showed up. Once he actually showed them the rifle and saw that it had a regular magazine release on it, they informed him that, that's actually a felony right now. They did confiscate the rifle, but they never charged him with a crime. Come to find out, this individual, who is a little elderly, had purchased the AR-15 prior to January 1. When he wasn't able to register it online, he simply backdated the date of acquisition, and the Department of Justice saw that there was a discrepancy versus the actual acquisition of the lower versus the stated acquisition of the lower. As a result of that, they thought it would be prudent to pay him a visit. In any event, I have said numerous times that, the assault weapons registration is extraordinarily problematic, potentially violations of your Fifth Amendment rights, but it also can create an administrative nightmare. I encourage you to read the blog, look at the conclusions that I've kind of outlaid in it. And again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me, stephen@artemishq.com. And as always, train constantly, train consistently, train with purpose, and stay vigilant. Thank you. Until next week.